today we're going to go through another clip, and this is to a little piece that Rhett and Link did on problems associated with being white.
The actions of white evangelicals in the year 2020 served as a strong confirmation for me personally to have publicly disassociated myself from the church.
Except that he's still white.
Now, again, I left because I came to what for me was an inescapable conclusion that the church had a spurious relationship with the truth. And I feel like that spurious relationship with the truth was borne out in 2020. But it's more than just a spurious relationship with the truth. I think the church demonstrated that it has a spurious relationship with justice.
So let's go right to the root right away. If we don't know if there's a God or not, if there is no God, what is truth? If there is no God, what is justice? Who cares?
As well. So on the issue of racial injustice, and I'm going to pull some data from the Public Religion Research Institute.
Oh, good. Data. All rise, bow down, data. We're entering the holy precincts of sociological science. Data.
This is all
shout out.
This is all straight from there. White Christians are nearly twice as likely as religiously unaffiliated whites to say the killings of black men by police are isolated incidents rather than part of a pattern of how police treat African Americans.
There is no God, so why is that bad? Is there a problem?
White Christians are about 30 percentage points more likely to say monuments to Confederate soldiers are symbols of Southern pride rather than symbols of racism. White Christians are also about 20 percentage points more likely to disagree with the following statement. Generations of slavery and discrimination have created conditions that makes it difficult for blacks to work their way out of the lower class.
And so, because he disagrees with that statement politically, 20%, look at how he's reasoning. Statistically, evangelicals are 20% more likely to disagree with the statement that the negative position that blacks are in North America has something to do with slavery, as opposed to, let's say, Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty, which is where they went off the cliff. My mere disagreement with him on some economic point means that I have a spurious relationship with the truth and with justice. And he's saying this having sawn off the limb of truth and justice while he's hurtling toward the ground, upbraiding me for still clinging to the trunk.
Author Robert P. Jones, who's also associated with the PRRI, created a racism index that was generated using 15 questions designed to get beyond personal biases and include perceptions of structural injustice.
I wonder what test he had to pass that would qualify him to devise such a test.
So basically, this is a racism test.
And if you don't realize that these racism tests are going to be, at some point, mandatory for you, then you're not paying very close attention. Racism test. At least they're not doing it with a blood draw.
White evangelical Protestants had the highest median score on the racism index. As Jones summarized, while most white Christians think of themselves as people who have warm feelings toward African Americans, holding racist views is nonetheless positively and independently associated with white Christian identity. Having spent most of my life in the white evangelical church, I don't need these stats, but you might need them in order to understand that racism has a very comfortable home in the white evangelical church.
And absent God, why is that bad? Shouldn't racism have a comfortable home? Is there any natural selection? Going on? All that matters is evolution, right? There is no justice. There is no truth. There is no ultimate standard overarching all of us. There is a standard inside their bubble that they decided to get out of one bubble and into another bubble, and they somehow think that their bubble is authoritative.
Today. And also, newsflash, and people who know their history
Probably aren't watching these guys.
know that this is not new, right? It isn't like 2020 made the church racist. The white church has held up racist ideas and defended racist ideas and perpetuated racist ideas for hundreds of years. The church, now what we were told, what we grew up thinking is that, the only reason that slavery ended was because of the Christian abolitionists. But what that fails to account for is the only reason that slavery continued for so long was the white Protestants who were justifying it and doing it, right? Mm-hmm.
As Thomas Sowell points out, slavery has been nearly universal throughout all human history. And this ubiquitous institution was something that white Christian civilization developed a conscience about in the 19th century. And there were conflicts and wars and all sorts of things about it. William Wilberforce fought to have the slave trade outlawed in the British Empire. And then after it was outlawed, the British Navy was used to suppress the slave trade everywhere else. In other words, this universal human institution was eradicated first in Western white civilization, because we developed a conscience about it first. And therefore, we are prime targets to be uniquely blamed for the institution as a whole, which is ridiculous.
And not only that, not only were they instrumental in the justification of slavery, the church was instrumental in the justification of segregation that followed slavery. And Sunday morning remains the most segregated time of the entire week in America.
And also, especially in northern Finland, very segregated up there.
2020 just pulled the curtain back. 2020 just pulled the curtain back on something that lots of people have known for a long time.
I will say, you kind of alluded to it. I'll just say, I'll refer to your Medium article, Letter to a White Man, because that's where you explored your own experience, and you wrote the letter to your former self. I think that, again, you made a statement earlier that, like, if given my experience and your experience growing up when we did where we did, including in the church, but just when and where we did in general as white guys.
As white guys. Well, as much as I would like to say that he's just surprised me with the fact that they're white, because I like to think of myself as colorblind, that would be a lie, because these guys are manifestly white. They exude whiteness. They're still being very, very, very white.
Yeah, I know a lot of... this rings true for me from personal experience.
They're still evangelicals. Look at that testimony. Personal experience. I wonder if he feels it in his heart.
Mm-hmm. And, being close to it to the point where I personally am sorry for being so close to it. And
that fixes everything.
Unwittingly involved many times, more than I even care to reflect or completely understand, because it's scary to think about. But I talk to my kids about it,
Make sure that they feel guilty for things they didn't do.
Yeah.
So just wanted to throw that in there.
Well,
yeah, this rings true from my personal experience.
Rings true. What is true? What is truth? How can something ring true when there is no such thing?